My name's Ivan Aplin, and I live here in Carnarvon, the most Welsh-speaking town in the world, where 9 out of 10 can speak the language, and most of the rest understand it. However, I was born and brought up in a very different place, in the Welsh-speaking community of London, which still survives to this day. Both my father and his mother before him were fluent Welsh speakers, though neither of them ever lived in Wales. My great-grandfather was the first to settle in the city in 1886, though his father had brought mountain ponies to sell in the horse fairs on the outskirts of London a generation before that. All our family are fluent in the language, and sometimes I joke that I had a bilingual upbringing because my mother speaks the dialect of Gwynedd in the north, whilst my father spoke the dialect of Ceredigion in the south. After completing my schooling in London, I went to college in Cardiff to study Welsh literature and Welsh history. One of my first experiences of writing verse in Welsh was penning the lyrics for a rock band with whom I sang at the time. The desire to sing is no longer as strong as it was then, but the desire to perform lingers on, and I've been fortunate enough to have presented my work on several continents. My poems have been translated into over 20 languages, and it's nice to be able to use the local language when presenting my work abroad rather than have to depend on English translations. It's nice to travel around Wales too, of course. I was part of the first poetry tour around the country back in 1986, and I've participated in many others since, usually accompanied by other Welsh language poets, but sometimes with poets from other countries, such as Martin Mac An Dŵr from Scotland.
Ac o dîm Carnarvon, Ifor ap Glyn.
Another constant in my poetic career has been my participation in the Talwrn, the knockout poetry competition on the radio, where 2 teams of poets challenge each other every week to see who will be crowned champion at the end of the year. My team, Carnarvon, have won that accolade a couple of times, and I'm indebted to the Talwrn in other ways too. The set tasks are a prompt to creativity.
Hinlyn arall I wadu'r hinlla, e bychiad arall mewn monolog o luniau.
Over the years, I've published 6 collections of poetry, a novel about Welsh life in London, and half a dozen factual works. My day job, however, was as a television producer. Sometimes I presented programmes too, and still do occasionally. Their subjects have ranged widely, from the toilets of the world, for instance, to the history of slavery in the USA. One series, Popeth yn Gymraeg, or Everything in Welsh, was a social experiment in which I travelled around Wales to see if I could get by without using English at all.
Ble rydych chi'n byw? Rwy'n byw yn y Benny!
In another programme, I walked around the slate quarries of northwest Wales, where my mother's family worked for several generations. That way of life, the only heavy industry in Welsh history to have been conducted almost entirely through the medium of Welsh, has inspired a number of my poems. Mae hanes yn hollti'n hawdd mewn dwylo medrus. Aeth y ladis a'r dutchies I fyd gwell prifysgolion, I doi capeli ac ysbytai. Arhosodd lluosogrwydd mwy fan hyn I godi pyramidiau'r werin, I droi cerrig wast yn rhwysg. Most of my programmes have been documentaries, sometimes with literary connections, as in 2017 when we commemorated the centenary of the death of Hedd Wyn, a promising young poet killed at Ypres before he learnt that he'd won the chair for the best poem at that year's National Eisteddfod. When I was appointed National Poet of Wales in 2016, I was the subject of a documentary myself. This clip shows the night that one of my poems was projected on the side of Big Ben. Dwi'n falch iawn o fod yn rhan o Sul y Cofio yma ar Lanau'r Tafwys. Achos fel Cymro Llundain, fel hogyn a fagwyd yn y ddinas hon, mae gweld yn hiaith ni yn cael ei thaflunio i fyny fanna ar ochr un o adeiladau mwy o symbolaidd y ddinas hon yn wirioneddol wefreiddiol. Ond dwi'n licio meddwl hefyd, gan fod hon yn ddinas mor cosmopolitan, gan fod gwledydd Prydain yn gyffredinol mor cosmopolitan, a chynifer ohonyn ni bellach yn siarad ieithoedd heblaw Saesneg wedi magu i siarad ieithoedd blaw Saesneg fel ieithoedd cyntaf. Dwi'n licio meddwl bod cynnwys y Gymraeg yma yn gydnabyddiaeth o'r ffaith yna hefyd. I've always been interested in the possibilities of using other media to win new audiences for Welsh language poetry, be that beer mats, postcards, bus stops even, and collaborating with musicians, of course. I performed this poem as part of the concert celebrating the opening of the Welsh Senedd in 1999.
Fydd colofnwyr papur newydd ddim yn cael parhau ar arfer o sillafu gogledd a de Cymru hefo G a D fawr megis gogledd a de Korea neu Vietnam, achos nid y 49th parallel na'r DMZ sy'n ein gwahanu, ond Lôn Sal, pobl sy'n deud Sietin a defaid teircoes ban y Brycheiniog, felly rhybydd, cynulliad, fydd yn newid ein ffordd ni o feddwl. Rhybydd, cynulliad, gadewch eich rhagfan wrth y drws.
The potential of video is particularly appealing, as subtitles in another language can easily be incorporated without interfering with the viewer's ability to enjoy the sound of the poem in the original language. But nothing beats the experience of sharing poems with an appreciative live audience. And I hope to continue doing that for years to come, both here in Cymru and in the wider world beyond.